Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 22 of the Speak Smart channel. Today, we're going to learn how to use there is and there are in English. Are you ready? Let's get started. James, today we're going to talk about sentences with there is and there are. These are very important because they are used in many conversations.
Yes, these are very useful for explaining the existence of things and people in a place. What's the difference between them?
There is used for one thing, and there is used for more than one thing. For example, there is a book on the table.
So, to say there's more than one book on the table, we would say there are books on the table, right?
Exactly. It's that simple. Now let's give more examples to understand better.
Yes. For example, there is a car in the garage, or there are cars in the garage. Do these two sentences have a difference?
Yes, one shows just one car and the other shows more than one. Now, let's give examples of things in the bedroom.
There is a bed in the bedroom, and there are pillows on the bed are good examples, right?
Yes, these are absolutely correct. Now, to say that there's nothing in the room right now, what sentence should we use?
We should say there is nothing in the room. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct. Now, if we want to say there are no books on the table, we should say there are no books on the table.
Great. So in negative sentences, there is and there are also used. We just need to add no.
Exactly. Now for practice, I have a question for you. Is there a computer in this room?
Yes, there is a computer in this room.
Very good. Now if I say there are several computers in this room, how should the sentence be?
We should say there are computers in this room.
Great. You've learned this really well. Now, let's look at a few more examples.
For example, there are some people in this cafe. How should the sentence be?
We should say there are people in the cafe. It's very simple, right?
Yes, that's correct. These sentences are very useful and easy.
That's right. Now, what should we do to ask questions with there is and there are?
For questions, we need to change the word order. For example, with there is, we say is there.
Exactly. For example, is there a book on the table, or are there books on the table?
Now, if we want to answer, we say yes, there is, or no, there aren't.
Exactly. Short answers are very useful. Now, let's imagine there's nothing in a room. How would we ask a question?
We should ask, is there anything in the room?
Yes, very good. If we want to say there's nothing in the room, what answer would we give?
We should say no, there isn't anything in the room.
Exactly. Now, if we want to ask about people, do we use there is or there are?
For people, if there's more than one person, we should use there are.
That's right. Like asking, are there any people in the room?
And for one person, we should ask, is there a person in the room?
Great. Now, let's imagine there are several trees in a garden. How would the sentence be?
We should say there are trees in the garden.
Very good. Now, to show that a specific tree is in the garden, what should we say?
We should say there is a tree in the garden.
Yes, this is very simple. Now, for more complex questions, how should we use there is and there are?
More complex questions like, are there any books on the table? Or is there any water in the glass?
Exactly. Now, let's imagine we want to ask if there are no pets in this house. How should the sentence be?
We should say, are there no pets in the house?
Great. Now I have another question. Is there no paper in my office?
We should say, is there no paper in your office?
Very good. Now, tell me how we should ask if there are no students in the classroom.
We should say, are there no students in the classroom?
That's right. This is how we can ask more complex questions with there is and there are.
That was great. Now, let's talk about places where these sentences are used.
These sentences are used in daily conversations, like shopping, asking about surroundings, and more.
Yes, for example, when I go to the supermarket, I can ask, is there any milk in the fridge?
Exactly. These sentences are very useful for talking about places and different situations.
Now that everything is clear, let's continue practicing once more.
Yes, practice is very important. Let's make a few more sentences to make sure we've learned everything.
For example, there are trees in the park, or there is a bench in the park. These are good examples.
Exactly. Now, let's imagine there are no clothes in a store. We should say there are no clothes in the store.
Yes, that's correct. And if we want to say there's no fruit in the market, we should say there is no fruit in the market.
Exactly. Now, in a cafe, if we asked if there's no coffee left, how would the sentence be?
We should say, is there no coffee left in the cafe?
Very good. Now, what about using there is and there are in the past tense?
We should use there was for the past tense and there were for plural sentences.
That's right. For example, there was a book on the table and there were books on the table.
Great. This is an important exercise that we need to learn. Now, if we want to say there was nothing in the room in the past, how do we say it?
We should say there was nothing in the room.
Exactly. These examples are very useful. Now, let's imagine that in the past, there were trees in the park. We should say there were trees in the park.
Yes, that's correct. Now, for something specific, we should say there was a tree in the park.
Excellent. Now that everything is clear, we can practice one more time.
Yes, more practice is always good. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes. Is there a cat in this house?
No, there's no cat in this house. We should say there is no cat in this house.
That's correct. Now, I have another question. Is there anything in this office?
Yes, there's a computer in this office. We should say there is a computer in this office.
That was awesome. Now that we've learned everything, we can practice more.
Great! Today we learned how to use there is and there are. I hope this explanation was helpful.
Yes, me too. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Until next time, goodbye.